Hey, Gavin.
Hey, Louie.
How you doing, girly girl?
I'm doing all right. Look at you, freshly shorn, back from Texas, and it just snatched your wig right off.
She really did. I came back and I was like, it's that thing that happens when there's so much to do and you don't even know where to start. And I was like, what can I do right now to control my life? And
So you pulled all your hair out.
I pulled literally all my hair out. And you know what? It's sickening, okay?
It's sickening. You're very aerodynamic.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
In 2023, sweetie, the looks are changed. We're feeling good and plentiful. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Mixed Reviews.
We are a film podcast where we take a film subject, such as an actor, director, or a mini genre, and then we take 2 weeks, watch as much as we can, and then we give you a full history, and we talk about what we like and what we don't like.
And sometimes we bring along some friends. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Ricky Lake doorbell. Ding dong.
Everyone, please welcome to the stage. It's Mr. Derek Gayle. Derek, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming and joining on us on our first like a real episode of the year.
Nice.
You know,
I always feel like we get a really strong, like it's always one of my favorites. Like last year, it was Olivia Newton-John. We had great guests. The year before that, it was Chris Pine, one of the Chris's. But with Connor. So like, yeah, I just love having a guest at the first of the year. It's very
now
nice.
you have to start with me, so kind of downgrade, but you know.
How dare you?
The tradition shall continue because you brought us a very exciting subject.
We have one piece of old business, which is just on our Patreon, which, by the way, you can join our Patreon and join us in the, what do they call it? What do the kids do? The Discord? Join us in the Discord. There's bonus episodes. Eventually, there will be more bonus episodes. I promise. We're trying. We're busy people. But Michelle Ice, who was previously a Patreon supporter, upped her support, and as part of the deal of upping her support, we have to give her a shout out on the show. So thank you so much, Michelle Ice. You are such truly a lovely individual, and you didn't have to do that.
Oh my God, like you're my number one fan, girly, and we appreciate it so much. And thank you to everyone who's listening, and I hope you all are having a great start of the new year, and hopefully we can be a part of that. So Derek, why don't you just kick us off? Who have you brought for us to talk about today?
Yeah, someone with that fucking face on her face. She is our mother, Toni Collette.
Yes.
It's giving mother.
It's giving
Torny.
mother.
I believe it's pronounced Torny.
Torny.
Torny?
That's true. Yeah. You know, I went an embarrassingly long time never knowing she was Australian and discovered it by watching a clip of her on a talk show, like maybe just a few years ago, and was like, wait, what?
Yeah, sure.
I was going to save it for the rewind, but she is so good at accents, and she does not use an accent coach.
I usually really do not like working with dialect coaches because it makes me so self-conscious about what I'm doing rather than just being in the moment and trying to create something truthful.
She said she used one once when she needed like a very specific Irish accent, but other than that, she's like, no, ma'am.
Nor.
Nope.
Wow.
Nor.
Wow.
Something she doesn't say. Something you'd never know. I literally watched an entire interview with her where she didn't break
Wow.
American accent. I was just like, why is she doing this?
Yeah, I think her American accent is the strongest in her arsenal of accents, and it's fucking crazy. She's so good.
Yeah.
The range on this woman, incredible.
I mean, yeah. Yep. That's the take.
We've talked about a lot of movies that she's been in before. I was just realizing, I believe I chose The Way Back as my pick for our Sam Rockwell episode.
Yeah. Well, I chose Velvet Goldmine for a Hugh McGregor epised.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, she has been in the orbit of a lot of our subjects in the past. It's actually, she's just around. Lady gets around.
And now she's the sun in the solar system, babe, okay?
It's the greatest role she's ever played.
Derek, tell us, why did you want to talk about Toni Collette?
Yeah, God, it's funny. She's one of those actors, I think, that, like, you know how sometimes you have actors where it's, you see them in a movie and then they're sort of like transcendent and you're like, well, this is my guy. I'm going to follow their career forever. She wasn't like that for me for a long time. And I feel like maybe it might be the case for a lot of people because she's the type of character actor that is just in and out, very different kinds of roles, all different kinds of genres that I think that maybe until Hereditary, I feel like a lot of people went a long time just seeing her and being like, yeah, I love that actor when you see her on screen. But if you were to ask like someone to name a list of their favorite actors, she would rarely be on it, I think, because she's just not always top of mind. Like, I think y'all were talking about Joan Cusack on one of your episodes one time. And I think it was sort of similar with her, where it's like, she's like, nobody's going to say that Toni Collette is bad, but she's still weirdly underrated because of just the types of roles that she's been in. But so I guess when I was pitching people that I wanted to do, she was on my short list just because it was someone that I think I had grown to, in retrospect, realize how much I liked. The first movie I saw with her was Sixth Sense, which is probably the same for most people in the US. But it wasn't until I think I was watching like United States of Terra, which is obviously like an acting exercise that is just all about, look at the range that Toni Collette has, that I think.
Sweetie.
Oh. Yeah.
I know TV is not normally our purview, though we do actually end up talking about a lot of TV movies. But I will say, like, that is, first of all, you're only going to find fans of United States of Terror here.
Nice.
So,
Awesome.
So if you have anything negative to say, keep it to yourself.
Get out.
Get out. But I think, that show, what's really impressive is, first of all, it was canceled too soon, but also it was only meant to be one season. So...
I do think it has a very good finale considering the situation they were in. So
yes.
Yeah.
But she is so in control of everything that she's doing. Like, her instrument, which is her acting, is so finely tuned that she was able to pull that off without it ever feeling like too much. And trust me, there is too much on that show. I mean, that is a Diablo Cody written show.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a messy show, but it's the kind of mess that I really love.
Yes. I grew up on soap operas. I grew up on One Life to Live, and Vicky had like 5 different personalities, and her daughter had personalities. So this is the shit I loved. Is it an accurate portrayal of dissociative identity disorder? Probably not. But is it entertaining?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so I think that was when it sort of clicked with me like, oh, I've actually seen this lady in a lot of movies and I've liked her every time. Is she one of my favorite actors? And then I did start paying attention to her a lot more after that. And she has kind of, I guess, become my guy in a lot of ways. But I think that's kind of this, I think Hereditary, I think kind of turned the corner for her in the mainstream just because of the weird pop culture thing that movie was. And now I think she is a lot more top of mind with people. But even still, I think she's just such a fascinating subject just because of the breadth of different kinds of stuff that she's done. And it's a great opportunity to talk about so many different kinds of movies and like, even within the genres that she's worked in, like every horror movie that she's done is wildly different from whatever other horror movie that she's in, And every
horse movie she's done is very different from the other horse movies she's done. It's so crazy. She's so good.
Already. I knew it was coming at some point.
I haven't. I'm just gonna say I didn't watch the recent horse movie.
Well,
I have not seen that one. You cannot get me to watch a sports drama about a racing horse. I did not have time in my life for that, even with Toni Collette in it.
You did not know why that horse is so dreamy, and that's.
I'm still waiting for the sequel, Dream Nightmare or Nightmare Horse.
Nightmare Horse. That's the Ari Aster produced sequel. Nightmare Horse.
So good. Okay, Gavin, why don't we get into that rewind until we can talk about the lovely, the talented Miss Toni Collette.
Toni Collette Galafasi, born Toni Collette. By the way, Toni Collette is a stage name, even though I just said she was born Toni Collette, and that's because she added an E to the end of the name, which is actually how her name is supposed to be spelled, and her father took it out.
But
brilliant,
actually. For the lulz.
Yeah, I just love that she was like, I need a stage name. Why don't I use my name but add an E? It's very Barbara Streisand.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a letter away. I'm going to add a letter.
Just
it
for
works
the drama.
Because if you think about it without the E, then I feel like it's Toni Collette is probably what a lot of people are going to immediately see when they see it. And that does not have the same ring as Toni Collette at all.
That's true. It's very fancy sounding. It's very like, oh, French shishi actress.
Yes.
Toni Collette.
Oh, Miss Collette.
She was born November 1st, 1972, which makes her exactly 50. She is a 50-year-old. She's 50.
She's 50.
She's the eldest of 3 children. She has 2 younger brothers, and she was raised in the Sydney suburb of Gleb.
Gleb?
Please do not come at me, Australian listeners. I know we have a lot of Australian listeners. I think that's how it's pronounced.
What else could it be? Glebe? Glebby? I don't know.
Change the name, please. I can't.
She was raised there until she was 6, and then they moved to Blacktown. Her father, Bob Collette, was a truck driver, and her mother, Judy, was a customer service representative. So this is like working class. This is not like a rich to riches story. This is weird family fact. Her father's biological father is not who he thought he was. She found that out like on an episode later of Who Do You Think You Are? And so now she still has no idea who her paternal grandfather is.
It's so interesting.
Medical mystery.
What a
She
little
really
mystery.
is like the true opposite of a Nepo baby.
Yes.
Right. Correct.
She said growing up, her family was not the most communicative, and despite her parents' lack of money, they were very supportive and made their children feel cared for. She has fond memories growing up in Blacktown, and just to give you an idea of like what sort of little scamp Miss Toni Collette was as a child, she started acting very early, and by that I mean she convinced her parents and doctors that she had appendicitis. And
So you mean she was a liar?
She was a liar, yes.
I did this thing when I was 11, which it was nothing to do with acting. It's just that my mother told me she had her appendix removed when she was 11, and I thought, I'll give that a go. She said to me, when I was 11, I had my appendix removed. And I was like, oh, what was that like? And she said, well, when the doctor presses in, it doesn't hurt. It's when they remove their hand that there's, an eruption of pain.
Yeah.
So I had that tidbit of information. And my appendix were removed. It is so mortifyingly, it's just so embarrassing. I've always thought, no, I'm not one of those actors who needs attention. And then I tell this story and I'm like, oh, that theory's
The commitment to the bit was
Unreal, impressive.
unwavering.
I just want you to know, too, going into this, even before we really get into the acting stuff, she does not believe in method acting.
I mean, well, she doesn't anymore because the last time she did it, she lost her fucking appendix.
I'm in no way method, whatever that means. I think that is actually total bullshit. I mean, it's utter wankery. I don't understand why people either kind of try to sell the idea that they do that or convince themselves that they do that. I mean, everyone has their own process, but I'm just, I'm much more kind of instinctive. You do use yourself in your work, so it's going to be your perspective and however that's been influenced. But I'm not, I don't like draw on personal things intentionally. That kind of feels a bit cheap and like somewhat of a betrayal.
Her first acting role was a high school performance of Godspell at the age of 14. She auditioned singing Whitney Houston's Saving All My Love for You.
Wow. Ambitious.
Yeah. Also, we knew she was Mother back then.
Yeah.
That's how we knew.
The taste.
And then after that, she was like, that's it, drama bug, got it, totally in. And, she's claimed one of the biggest influence in her life, barring any sort of bad stuff that has happened over the years with Geoffrey Rush, is Geoffrey Rush. Geoffrey Rush was very popular as a stage actor in Australia, where she's from. So, of course, she saw him in a performance of The Diary of a Madman in 1989, and she was like, oh my God, this is what I want. This is what I want out of life. She changes her last name. Added an E.
LOL.
And she starts at the National Institute of Dramatic Arts, or NIDA, in early 1991. And then 18 months later, she leaves. She's like, oh, I got a professional acting gig. She went on to play Sonia in Uncle Vanya in 1992, directed by Neil Armfeld. And, of course, who's playing Uncle Vanya?
Fucking Geoffrey Rush.
Geoffrey Rush.
Wow.
Yes.
And
So
she's 16, 17 around there. She's
Yeah,
a
she's
teenager.
like
that's
meeting
incredible.
idols. Just checking off that list.
God, that's incredible.
So, in 1992, she makes her feature film debut in the comedy drama Spotswood, which is also known as The Efficiency Expert in America. That's how I found it. I know outside of the U.S. it's called Spotswood. It stars Anthony Hopkins, has a very young Russell Crowe, very young Ben Mendelsohn in it. I watched this and was like, we've been tricked before. We've done subjects and it's like, oh, their first movie, and they're like a person on the street or like a vendor in a store. And I was like, she's not going to be. She's the female lead.
Yeah,
What?
it's wild. It's wild. I didn't watch the whole movie. I only watched because I just wanted to see because I was figuring I didn't even block out time to watch that one, honestly, because I figured I'll watch the clip of the one scene she's probably in, because I made the mistake and watched the movies that I probably didn't need to watch for this, like the fucking pallbearer that did psychic damage to me that she's barely in. Waste of time to watch that for this, but I was expecting that for this. But yeah, she is in a lot of that movie.
What is wrong with you, Carrie? You are so stupid. You don't know anything about anything, especially about girls. Oh, you're so juvenile and naive and horrible.
I was not expecting it. I was like, I mean, I get it. Like, it's an Australian film. I mean, but there's plenty of actors in Australia. Australia doesn't feel like England does. England has like 9 actors stretched out over 18 projects. And Australia feels like it has people willing to perform. But no, she is. Yeah, it's cute. She's cute in it. Yeah, everybody's got a little baby face. Even Anthony Hopkins got little baby face. And I was just like, sir, you are like 40 already. In 1992, her agent alerted her of a proposed film project that he thought would be good for her. She'd be a good fit. And that was a little film called Muriel's Wedding, 1994. So this is her second film project, Muriel's Wedding.
Wild that that's only her second movie, given everything that she has to do in that movie. Like,
you're terrible, Muriel. I just need to get it out first.
I hadn't seen that movie before watching it for this. So I was like, I'm going to watch it because I know that's their breakout role. And I had heard good things, but the only thing I knew about it was that it's Toni Collette's first major movie and that it's about an awkward girl who wants to have a wedding. So I was kind of dreading it. Like, that cannot be like that from 1994. Like, I'm not going to enjoy this. That movie rules. It's so good. And it's so much darker than I would have ever expected it to be. Yeah, and she's already doing her Toni Collette thing in it, of like she barely has any lines even though she's the lead, but it's like so much of her facial acting and like her her reactions to things. Like, it is like immediately like classic Toni Collette in that movie right off the bat. It's so good.
I didn't call them, they came crawling back to me. The way they picked on me in Pauper Spit, saying I wouldn't amount to anything, and here I am, famous, and they're at my wedding. I showed them.
Showed them what?
I'm as good as they are.
I had not seen it since I was a teen. And I think in my brain, I was like, yeah, it's, I mean, I knew I loved it, but I was like, it's this cute movie. There's lots of ABBA in it. Everybody's mean to her or whatever. That last 20 minutes of that movie, I was just like, what? Why do I not remember this?
Yeah, because it's probably blacked it out because of the trauma.
I definitely forgot that Rachel Griffith's character, like, loses the ability to walk. Like, but because like the image seared in your brain, of course, is them doing the choreography from ABBA, and it's an iconic scene. But very quickly after that, she no longer gets to do that. She sneaks up on you. Muriel's Wedding sneaks up on you, and you're right, Derek. Like, it's wild that it's an instantly like Toni Collette classic performance, and she's so young, and it's not like she's playing a super likable character. Like, it is a weird, complicated role. She is again a liar, but yeah, it's so good.
I will say this about her Australian films. Not playing a likable role seems to be a thing that she does specifically for Australian audiences. She occasionally dapples in it in American audiences, but for Australia, she's like, Mom, I don't want you to like me.
She's always a little bit problematic in the Australian movies. It's like,
When I first told Dan that we were doing Toni Collette, I was like, it's going to be fun. I'm sure I've seen a lot of these movies. And then I looked at the list of movies and I was like, I've not seen a lot of these movies. And also, what are these movies?
Thank you. And I feel like I made a big mistake when I pitched Toni Collette when I looked at her filmography, because I had the same thought. I was like, I know that I've seen her heavy hitters. I know that I have some blind spots, but I've seen most of them. And then it's like, I've seen
mostly blind spots.
5% of those movies, which is still a lot because she's done a lot of movies, but she's also done a lot of movies.
She is not afraid to be like, yeah, what's this little weird movie here?
Yes.
Huh? And there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I like immediately looking at that list sort of formed an opinion, and I was proven wrong, but I was like, ugh, like what? Like, why? And Dan was like, don't say anything that makes people hate you, because people love Toni Collette.
Yeah.
And I'm here to say that I'm
too
not
late. It's too late, first of all, Dan.
This is episode 127, so yeah. Luckily, I've managed that somehow. But I don't think I'm going to. I think I've sort of turned the corner, especially seeing a lot of these movies and understanding. I have a theory about how she picks projects. I'm going to wait till later, till I think it becomes a little more clear.
Yeah.
But I mean, she gained weight to play Muriel, but I do think it's funny because it is one of those... It's one of those things where, like, she's not that heavy.
No.
Like,
She just looks baby-faced in it, honestly, more than she looks like heavy.
Miramax buys Muriel's Wedding to air it in America, and it becomes sort of a cult classic and sort of an underground hit. And her talent is immediately recognized. And I don't want to invoke the name of the devil, but Harvey Weinstein casts her in Emma, which is the adaptation of the Jane Austen novel that they're going to be putting into production. And so she does a bit in Emma. I don't know if either of you saw that movie. It's fine if you not.
She's in more of it than I would have expected her to be at that point in her career. It's not that different, I think, than like her Muriel's Wedding performance, because it's a sort of a similar, just like a nicer version of that character, you know? She's still like, oh, that's the ugly girl kind of thing, even though she's like beautiful. Do you know what I mean?
No, that's interesting, because then her next movie is Clock Watchers, which we talked about in our Parker Posey episode.
I love that movie.
And she also plays kind of a similar, like, she's the straight-laced, like I'm glad she broke out of that mold, but that's really seemed to be where she was headed.
Right. And to Derek, to your point, like in Clock Watchers, she's, again, she has like the narrative voiceover, but like in the actual, like when stuff is happening, she is not saying a lot. Like everyone else is doing stuff around her. But Clock Watchers is so good.
I love that movie.
I also did watch Cozy, whatever the fuck we're going to call that.
Yes, I did too.
I did not.
First of all, I think it's so funny that they copied the poster for Muriel's Wedding for Cozy.
Wait, did they really?
Yeah, it's literally a giant picture of Toni Collette's face and confetti. And I was just like, this is the Muriel's Wedding poster.
They said, honey, it worked before, we'll do it again.
She is a singer, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but she does, the one good thing about Cozy is she has a cover of Don't Dream It's Over that plays over the end credits.
That's fun.
That I really enjoy. Yeah,
Cool.
it's very good. Her next big American breakout is The Sixth Sense. She received the script and she was like, I don't want to do this. It's going to be like a big American Hollywood blockbuster. I don't want anything to do with it. And then she read it and was like, oh, okay.
She's like, oh, a twist?
Yeah, she's like, let me audition. And so she does audition, and she beats out Marissa Tomei, which, by the way, completely different movie. Marissa Tomei,
but she still would have been good in that role, but different. I'm glad that it was Toni Collette, but I can absolutely see Marissa Tomei giving it in that role too.
I can't remember which movie she said she lost out on. There was a big movie that she really wanted that she like lost out and was waiting to hear back about both, and her agent called and was like, good news. And she's like, what? And she's like, you got Sixth Sense. And she's like, great. But she ended up loving it. And I mean, her like scene, she has a bunch of scenes, but like her scene is the Haley Joel Osment telling her about his gift and her
cry
mother.
every time.
Oh my God.
Every time.
It like, I'm always hesitant when we do a woman on the show to talk about their physical appearance, but I think she has such expressive eyes and such high cheekbones, and she knows how to weaponize her tear ducts.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so the nonverbal communication in that scene, where he's like, she wanted you to know this, and she's like, she has the silver nails.
Oh my God.
She's just like,
the work that those acrylic nails do in that movie, like she is working those so well. And it's so good. I cannot say enough good things about her in that movie. And it's like, you know, I was thinking about it this time when watching it, that it's like, because, you know, watching it in mind in the context of her other roles, and, you know, she's known to have like good facial expressions and everything. But I think like that scene alone, considering how like so much weight has to be carried on her and her silent expressions to this like 9-year-old reciting what a ghost told him, all in stuff that like was kind of only set up like in like lightly in one scene earlier in the movie at the Bumblebee pendant or whatever. But like most of the stuff that comes up in that scene has never come up in that movie again. It's all has to be applied fully on Toni's actual like reactions and acting, and like she kills it. Like that scene is only as impactful as it is because of her. And I think the movie like fundamentally doesn't work without her selling that emotional core of the movie, you know?
She said you came to the place where they buried her. Asked her a question. She said the answer is every day. What did you ask?
Do I make her proud?
She's so precise. I mean, and I think like the reason why, you know, from Muriel's Wedding to Clock Watchers to this, it's like she's able to do so much with so little. Mm-hmm. And so she really just is fucking attacking every moment with her eyes and her face. And she doesn't, I think she succeeds the most when she's able to just really be this fucking surgical with her acting, right? Whenever I think she makes like big choices, I'm like, okay, she's lost. She doesn't know what she's doing, guys. Like the script sucks and she's like unsure. But when it's fucking right and she's able to just very so delicately, like, and she's making the perfect little every fucking thing. Her face is just a masterpiece. Oh
yeah. No, I think it's like such a great way of putting it. I think that's why even when, you know, because there's a lot of roles that she's in where like she's not in the movie that much. She does a lot of supporting stuff, but I feel like the reason that they're often still memorable or she still kills it is because of that precision. It's sort of like, you're not giving me a lot here, but I can still find a real human being in this character that has 4 lines and appears in one scene and is just meant to be like the best friend to the main character, you know?
Totally.
She then goes on to perform in The Wild Party on Broadway. It's in the year 2000. She does this musical. It's not a bright musical. She's like abused by her boyfriend. She's hosting a lavish party, but it's one of those things where like I wonder what it's like to like look back and be like, I was on Broadway in the year 2000 with Eartha Kitt and Mandy Patinkin, and I was the lead.
Right. Okay.
Pretty wild.
Kevin, do you know the story about her, Mandy Patinkin?
No.
So I heard from a good source that the reason why Toni has not returned to Broadway is that Mandy Patinkin was an asshole to her.
Really?
Oh, no.
She did briefly return for the Realistic Joneses, but that was like a play. That was not, you know.
Right. And I think, you know, Mandy Patinkin would say that he is an asshole. I think he does know that. And like he has said before, he's like, you know what? I can be a little aggressive on the stage. And I think Toni Collette was like, I don't need this shit. Especially when it comes to like actors who take themselves too seriously. Like she clearly does not. Yeah, that just fucking sucks because I would love to see her do another show again.
The next thing she does is she turns down Bridget Jones's Diary, which I kind of love. Many people say she would have been perfect for the role. I think she was just like, I don't want to be typecast. I don't want to be that like longing, you know, and that's sort of, in a way, she like saves her own career because that is sort of where Hollywood is putting her.
Yeah.
And I was busy doing a musical on Broadway called The Wild Party and I wasn't available. But sometimes I think about that and I think, I don't know, that character's so similar to Muriel, it might have been too close.
She would have been like in every fucking rom-com, like
yes.
In the 90s and the aughts, you know? And I mean, she, from the jump, was not that girl. Like, you know, Muriel's Wedding is the complete fucking
it's like an anti-rom-com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fucking right on to her.
Yeah, I love that.
She does a bunch of tip spots around. She does the movie Shaft, which I saw when it was in theaters.
LOL.
By the way, I should mention, and I've not been mentioning awards, she got a Golden Globe nomination for Muriel's Wedding. She gets a Oscar nomination for The Sixth Sense. So, like,
Is that her only Oscar nomination?
Yes.
That's fucking
Bananas.
crazy.
Bananas.
Crazy.
In 2002, she has a supporting role in the movie The Hours. She's great in 2 scenes.
I think it's only one scene.
Is it only one scene?
It's literally, I watched that one the other day. It is literally one scene, but it's a good scene and she's great and it's an important scene and it's very memorable.
That movie stacked with so many fucking good actresses. You're like, who could they possibly get to play this character? And it's like, boom, fucking Toni Collette. And it's like, right on your fucking level, Julianne Moore, right there.
It's great.
I had forgotten because I just recently saw the opera based on The Hours at the Met and I saw the way that Kiss is played. So she plays a like trapped 1950s housewife along with Julianne Moore. They're both very trapped, and I had forgotten the kiss is very reciprocal in the movie, and it is not in the opera.
Oh no,
it is
really?
like shocking. Yeah, it is. When the Julianne Moore character kisses the Kitty character, which is Toni Collette's character, it is like and in the movie it's so sensual and so just like they're both into it, and goodness. And I also love speaking of character choices, and once again, this is one scene when she's talking about her life, and then she looks over and she goes, "You're reading a book."
Oh, you're reading a book? Yeah.
yeah.
It's very good. It's just a small choice, but it's perfect.
Yeah.
She's going from bitchy to slutty to like it's all the fucking things. It's homoeroticism.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a real tour de force of that one like 5 minutes that you see her on screen. It's great.
Also in 2002, she does the Nick Hornby adaptation About a Boy. I did not rewatch this. I've seen it before. I think I've seen it before for this show too, nonetheless, which means I've seen it multiple times. But she plays a bad mom.
Yeah.
She's got that real short hair. She sings Killing Me Softly.
Awful
at one
hair.
point.
Oh my God, this was the era like right after 9/11. All the girlies were in their pixie dream cut eras. Like
so bad. It was deranged. I don't know how to.
I was gonna say you had feelings about it, Derek.
I didn't hate it. I think it was fine. But I think it is like I don't know. Maybe this is like more of a later conversation thing. There's a weird amount of movies that she's in where she's a supporting character in a comedy where like suicide is a major like inciting incident, and it's a very strange and concerning to me.
Yeah,
so this maybe was like the least fucked up like suicide inciting incident out of all of them, but it was still like it's a bizarre movie.
Yeah, I'm happy for the it gave us Nicholas Hoult, and for that we thank you, and we move along.
Absolutely.
It's funny because the movie that you're referencing to, which will come along later, is also a Nick Hornby adaptation. So there you go.
Oh my God, yeah.
In 2003, she returns to Australia and she does Japanese Story. She plays an Australian geologist, and she is leading a Japanese businessman around Australia, and she falls in love with him. And this is a movie.
I thought, wow, they really said Japanese Story.
Yep.
And there's like one Japanese man in the whole thing.
And like,
cool.
This,
And speaking of problematic Toni Collette in Australia.
Yes,
like,
exactly. That's the thing. Like, literally, her first line in the movie is like, "I'm a geologist, not a geisha." And I was just like, wow. I need you to draw it back. I need you to take it. But it informs you about her character. I didn't hate this movie, but I did not like this movie. I don't want to mince my words. I don't want to make it sound like I think there is a very sensitive ending to this movie that it does not earn and does not deserve.
Right. Sure. I think this is a movie of its time for sure. And I'm sure that when it was made, they thought they were really doing something that said something about like, intercultural relationships, blah, blah, blah. Like it's just like a horrible fucking name of the movie. Like, why is it that name? Like, it shouldn't be called Japanese Story. It could just be about this Australian bitch and this Japanese guy who like have this awful, they trauma bond essentially. And then a horrible thing happens.
Horrible thing happens.
I was gooped and gagged. I was like,
it's so sudden.
I didn't know where this movie was going at any minute, at any moment. It was fucking wild.
We go here.
Where?
Munda Bulangana.
Show me. It's written in Japanese.
It's Japanese map.
How do you say it?
Munda
Munda
Bulangana.
Ganda.
Munda
Bulangana. Gana. Munda Bulangana. Bloody hell.
I didn't watch it because I was put off by the title Japanese story, honestly.
You were smart. Louie and I are constantly in the lookout for our 1-star reviews, so there's a lot of bad stuff we sift through as well, too.
Sure. I mean, to be fair, like I said, I did watch The Pallbearer. So, I mean, and absolutely did not need to do that.
Yeah, that was also in this era, by the way. That was in the 90s, and that was when people were like, David Schwimmer's going to be an actor.
Yeah.
A romantic lead.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, sure, buddy.
In 2004, she does The Last Shot in Connie and Carla. I know Louis probably wants to talk about Connie and Carla. I'll let you take the floor.
Drag me, wow. Okay, all I'm gonna say is Connie and Carla. Nia Vardalos was an executive producer on this, and for that we stand. She is an ally. Yeah. Again, a movie of its time where they think that they are. I mean.
Yeah.
Obviously, this movie was made with very good intentions. It's basically like
that's how the road to hell is paved, with good intentions, baby.
It's basically Sister Act, but like
yes,
somehow not as gay, but also gayer. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good description.
We certainly talked about this in our Drag On Film episode.
We talked about it in our Drag On Film episode.
Yeah, and so I've talked about this like in the 90s and the early aughts. No one knew how drag queens operated. No, like people just thought. People lived as drag queens like every day or some shit. It's fun. If you just like, don't think too hard.
The ending sucks ass, but I think the majority of that movie is at least like it's pleasant and like honestly way more inoffensive than I ever would have expected it to be from a movie from 2004. And I think Toni seems to be having fun in it. I guess
it's so funny because it steals the like little card from To Wong Fu.
Yes.
That in the end, and I'm going to spoil it for you guys because I don't care, that Debbie Reynolds shows up. And I'm like, okay.
It's the most forced cameo in the world. Yes. But also I wasn't mad about it either.
No.
I don't know.
No.
Debbie Reynolds is like, I need to pay for that neon sign in Vegas.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
In 2005, she only does one film, and that's In Her Shoes.
A great film.
I like that movie a lot.
Great film.
Yeah.
We talked about it a lot in our Cameron Diaz episode. I love this movie. This is the last movie she gains weight for. Curtis Hanson, who directed it, wanted her to gain 45 pounds. She couldn't. She just, her body was not receptive to it. There is a really funny anecdote where during the rehearsals, which by the way, another funny thing about her acting, hates rehearsal. Does not think her rehearsal is necessary for most films because she's like, directors don't really know what they want. And that's like rehearsal only dulls that.
I often find, rehearsal a little bit of a waste of time because most directors are a bit afraid and don't quite know what they want to do with you. I know why I've been hired. The script is there. I will have lived for it for, a certain amount of time. I also don't want to waste everyone's time, and I'm very aware of people having lives and I know that there's a focus and we're all there to tell this story, but it's very rare that I'll come to a scene and feel like I need to rehearse. I pretty much do turn up ready to, and sometimes I kind of get to know a crew and I'm like, they're not going to get it right on the first 3 takes, so I'm just not going to give it all until
I do love that movie. I think her performance is I picked it as my 5-star review for Cameron Diaz, and I think she is only outmatched by Toni Collette. Like, Toni Collette rocks that fucking movie from the moment it starts till the moment it ends. Also, that is a movie that like hits me in the heart. Hurts.
What are you doing here?
I live here. What are you doing here?
You live here, in an old folks' home.
It's a retirement community for active seniors.
Wait, so you live with our grandmother?
In 2006, I think a lot of people started taking notice of her. She is part of the ensemble of Little Miss Sunshine. I feel like who hasn't seen Little Miss Sunshine? It's a little engine that could.
Sure.
But she's the matriarch of a family who is going across country so her daughter can enter a beauty pageant. And I mean, this movie has everyone in it. In fact, when I worked at Filmmaker Magazine, I worked at Filmmaker Magazine for 9 months when I first moved to New York City. I remember one of the, I won't say who, just in case they're still with the magazine, but there was an employee who was very upset about the fact that it was nominated for the Independent Spirit Awards, because he was like, you have this cast, this is not an independent film. He was like,
sweetie.
Yeah, he was like, that's a lie. But, you know, I think the reason the movie has this cast is to elevate it, you know, because it's kind of a pretty
We talk
simple
about
story.
this in our Pageants on Film episode. It's like, it's one of those movies that's like, oh, it's so basic to like it, but like, God damn it. It's you cannot not like this movie.
Cute,
like
It's infectious.
It's cute. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's, once again, she's willing to mix it up and make herself look a little not great. I mean, there's the scene where she's trying to keep Abigail Breslin from eating ice cream because she's worried about her weight as a kid. And it's like, just let her be a fucking kid.
Maybe we haven't said this enough, but like, she already has been she got an Oscar nomination for being in a fucking horror movie. She's broke through as a comedic actress, you know, and she's just so versatile.
Yeah.
Like instantly going from like indie shit to like huge blockbuster shit. This woman cannot be tamed. It's fucking nuts.
Well, and it is interesting, like that she is okay. Like, it's like an interesting balance of, she seems like she's both careful with what she picks, but also not feeling constrained by particular genres either. Like the fact that she is in this like cute indie movie and also Shaft and also The Sixth Sense, you know, those three movies couldn't be any more different, you know?
Right. And like, it's funny you say that she's so selective or picky with her movies, because literally the same year she fucking does like The Night Listener. Like, so it's weird.
Thank you for bringing up The Night Listener.
She does. It's so weird. I mean, yeah, she is. She does be picking those movies. But it's like, what the fuck? Like, her brain?
Yeah.
What's going on up there?
But here's the thing. I do think, because there's plenty of movies that she's done that I do not like and I think are bad, but I do think all of the movies that she's been in, I was surprised by with watching through some of them that I hadn't seen, where it's like, I can't there's never a movie that feels like it's just a straight up like weird cash grab or something. It does always feel like it's like, I can see why this looked interesting on paper, or I can see why this role maybe seemed compelling to you, and maybe the execution of the premise was bad, or it was like a bad script, but you were interested in the role anyway and would elevate it. Like, it does seem like she does genuinely pick movies that she believes in some way. Like, there's never a movie where it's just like, why did you even fucking do this? It's more like, weird choice, but I kind of get that it's weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't even mention Velvet Goldmine, which was a movie she did back in 1998, the Todd Haynes movie. And like 1998's really early in her career, and she was considering quitting acting. And we talk about this a lot with women specifically, because they're not offered great parts, or it's all about how they look and everything. And she said Todd Haynes is the reason she continued to act, because of doing Velvet Goldmine. And she's basically playing David Bowie's wife, but it's not, it's like not a movie about David Bowie, but it's not a movie about David Bowie.
Right.
I still think all of that stuff is overblown. But anyways, I love that role, and I love that she took so much from working with Todd Haynes.
I mean, it's not Angie Bowie, but it pretty much was Angie Bowie. I loved making Velvet Goldmine. I mean, also Todd Haynes hired me, and I really was not, you know, an obvious choice at all. So I always felt very flattered that he allowed me that experience.
You know, I'd played characters like Wendy in Spotswood and Muriel in Muriel's Wedding and Harriet in Emma, and all of these characters are very unsure of themselves. And then I think that my character in Mandy in Velvet Goldmine was insecure, but in a very different way. She was very, very I mean, that whole period, that glam rock period, is just so seductive and so glamorous and so kind of risque, and to be included with that group of actors at the time, I just felt like it was such a gift, and like I was getting away with something, you know. But that one was crazy fun. That was just I never wanted that one to end. It was really just amazing.
In taking everything that you both have just said, I'm going to drop my theory now, because I feel like now is a good time, about how she picks roles. And at least, I mean, I've watched in the last 2 days, nonetheless, I've watched like 15 Toni Collette movies because I did not have to work yesterday. And
Jeez.
so
Gavin said sleep is for the weak.
Yeah, I was like, no more sleep, no more. Oh, I should turn that into a show.
Hate that. Hate it.
Anyways, so I think she has like 3 tracks, essentially. And like, none of this is verified. So if you're Toni Collette and you're listening to this and you're like, that's not how I do it, feel free to write in.
Girly. Let us know.
I think there is a sort of social responsibility track where she takes roles that she thinks are either about people or subjects that are sort of under talked about. She plays a lot of moms of people with disabilities, developmental disabilities, differently abled people. She also does movies about white supremacy. I mean, people of her caliber don't do that shit. That's sort of, I think her second track is she does movies specifically with young, new filmmakers that she can elevate their movies by adding her star power to it and also give them a really good performance, but also like, you know, the rising tide lifts all boats. And I think she considers that part of her responsibility. And I think the third track is one that's just fun that she can put a little character on.
Yeah.
I think, and don't shoot me, I think The Hours is that. I think what she did was like, I can come in, do a little character. There's no responsibility in The Hours.
Sure.
The Hours already had fucking Meryl Streep and Nicole Kidman and Julianne Moore. So she was just like, I'm going to come in, I'm going to be sassy, and then I'm going to go.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I totally see that. Yeah.
Knives Out is another one where it's like that ensemble cast, like she's just going to come in, she's going to be Gwyneth Paltrow, and then she's going to leave.
Yeah. And she seems to be having a blast in that movie.
Exactly. And she's so
like no
good. And
pressure.
that's the other thing is like, it's not like I'm saying the third track she's phoning it in. She's never phoning it in. I think she has a lot of fun. And I think Velvet Goldmine is that's the reason why I brought up Velvet Goldmine is I think it's that third track too, where she was like it like reinvigorated her love of the art because she loves acting. She's talked about it so many times. I found a montage on YouTube of her doing interviews where she's like, I love acting.
It seems strange. I mean, I know it's such a strange thing to do with one's life, but I really love it.
I enjoy my work. I love acting. I've been doing it since I was a teenager and I love it. So that's what I get out of it, is the actual experience of telling the story and being on set with all these people and everyone contributing and sharing something.
Well, how great is it to love your job? Yeah. So many people don't. That in itself is amazing.
I think that's what Velvet Goldmine did, is it re-sparked that idea that like, oh, this can be fun too. I can do something and not have it change the world, but also give a good performance. And it, like, it's one for me and the audience.
That's interesting. It's funny because I feel like a lot of other actors, their equivalent to that is doing like, well, I'm doing the movie that'll get them a big paycheck or something.
Yes.
And it's funny that her way is sort of like, it's probably not going to get her a paycheck because it's probably going to be some weird little indie rom-com that no one's going to watch. But like, that's her fun, just doing it for fun track. That's so interesting.
And I've seen her in interviews say she's not interested in a Marvel movie. She is absolutely not interested in a Marvel movie.
I think it's fair, yeah.
Like she could easily like get a paycheck. Like, of course, never say never, because I also thought Charlize Theron would not be interested, and she showed up in fucking Doctor Strange. So
I will say, to be fair with Toni Collette too, I feel like she's one of the fears with like, MCU stuff is that they're just locked into it and that's all they do. I do think that like she could be a role and she would still keep working and do all the indie stuff she wants to do too, and get that paycheck if she wanted to, honestly.
She would be that bitch that rolls up and is like, kill me by the end of the movie.
Right.
I want to be dead. Right. She wants the Kate Blanchett treatment, the Thor Ragnarok.
I think that she could absolutely, I think she would make a really fun Marvel villain for like a single movie, honestly.
Yeah.
I think she would make like a good like Green Goblin or something bizarre.
Oh my God.
Honestly.
just shows up as Normina Osborn.
Right?
Yeah. Hey, Spidey.
But ultimately what people want, there's no formula that can create a successful film. People want originality and they want a strong, clear voice. And we're in a time now where everything is watered down to try and feed the masses, and then there's nothing to relate to. So it becomes spectacle and people just kind of sit there shoving popcorn in their mouth.
In 2008, the aforementioned United States of Tara, enough cannot be said about her performance for all 3 seasons. Yeah.
It's unreal. And the way that it just keeps building and building. And like, at first you're like, oh, this is really crazy. This is really good. And then like, as the seasons go by, there's more fucking personalities. Yeah. And she is just, again, the physicality comes out because she's able to like really, go into all the specifics of each of these characters. That show gave us so much. It gave us Brie Larson. We talked about Viola Davis has a little tip spot in that show.
Absolutely.
So good.
Yeah, it's great.
There should have been more scenes between her and Viola. That's my only complaint about season 3.
She won an Emmy for that, didn't she? I think
she did.
Yeah.
Originally, in 2009, she was set to star in Away We Go. She had to back out of that. Maya Rudolph took over the role. So after dropping out of Away We Go and the ending of United States of Tara, she stars in Jesus Henry Christ in 2011, which is a indie film. I hated this movie.
This was all just this is just like a period of like people trying to recreate A Little Miss Sunshine. Like the Sundance boner was raging.
This was, and also the one thing I'll give Jesus Henry Christ is this was the original I Am Your Mother speech.
I did this for you, Henry, honey.
You did it for yourself, Patricia.
How dare you raise your voice at me? I am your mother.
2 for 2 on that. Just absolutely. 2012, she does the Australian film Mental, which I don't think came out here. It is. I watched it. It's a PJ Hogan film. In 2013, she stars in the aforementioned The Way, Way Back. She plays the mother in that movie. It's another good mother movie. I kind of, in my big one-man show about how she picks her movies, I didn't mention a movie I did really like from 2008 called The Black Balloon, which is another Australian film, and she plays the mother of 2 sons, and one of those sons is both severely autistic and has ADHD, and it is a tough role. She does a really good job. I would recommend The Black Balloon. It's maybe some of the decisions in the movie wouldn't be made today, especially having a non-autistic actor play the autistic brother. Even though I'll never know if his performance was good or not. It was convincing, I would say. Yeah. But and they did use a lot of autistic actors at the end of the movie. There's like a pageant at his school, and they use a lot of actual autistic actors, so that was nice. But I think it's a tough but kind of important film. So
I'll see what you have to say about the similar movie she does a few years later with Dakota Fanning.
Oh yeah. 2013, she does a cute little indie called Lucky Them that premieres at the Toronto International Film Festival.
I like that movie a lot.
Yeah, I really dug this movie. There's a bit of a jump scare at the end. There's a cameo at the end that I was like, no.
I didn't know that was coming.
I was like, Sarah, go away.
But at the time, I understand why that was the choice, and it wasn't a bad choice at the time. I think.
No, it totally makes sense. But she is a rock music journalist who is given the assignment to track down a former rock star who, quote unquote, killed himself, but nobody really knows if he did or not. And it is a guy that she used to date in high school. And she's joined by Thomas Hayden Church, who wants to make a documentary about it, and is
He's like the most annoying man alive,
yes,
but also weirdly charming somehow.
Yes,
I don't understand.
For being the most annoying man alive, the chemistry they have together, I was
weird.
like, how is this happening? She's also said that role is like no other role has she ever felt as connected like that. She's like, if she has played herself on screen, it's Lucky Them.
Okay, so you want to do a story about Matthew?
No. I want to do a documentary about you trying to find Matthew.
No, I don't want to be in your documentary.
And I don't want to just give you $1,000.
Which I was like, fascinating.
It's very fascinating. Yeah.
Because she's not the world's greatest person. Mm-hmm. And I liked that about it. Like, she starts dating a musician at one point, and then when he doesn't answer her texts, specifically because he's going to surprise her by showing up at her place, she immediately fucks somebody else. Ha! And I was like, wow.
Who amongst us? Who amongst us?
Yeah, exactly. No judgment.
And Tony's just like, yep, that's so me.
Yeah, crazy. 2014, she does Tammy, A Long Way Down, and Hector in the Search for Happiness. I didn't like Tammy when we talked about Melissa McCarthy. A Long Way Down, I have a feeling we're going to talk about now, so I might as well. I don't know if either of you saw Hector and the Search for Happiness. I watched it last night at like 2 a.m. and I was like, fuck this movie. Forrest Gump nonsense. Hated it.
Yeah. This era feels like a little bit like lost to me. Like it feels a little bit like she's searching. She doesn't know. Nothing's like, to me, it feels like nothing's super challenging. She's trying to pick these roles that are kind of like not awkward, but like weird. A Long Way Down, I was like, oh God.
Yeah. I wanted to like that movie more because I like some aspects of it but for the most part, it kind of, I didn't like it at all. And I don't know.
I think she's a very, without, and I don't say this as a negative thing, she's a bit of a granola person. She's a very like, and both, I would even say Tammy, like the message behind these movies are a lot of like, you got to look for the little stuff in life, and you got to look for, you know, the Hector and the Search for Happiness is the most like aggressively in your face about it, because the whole movie's about that. But A Long Way Down is very much just like, you know, everything's not as bad as you think it is. And like, if you could just hold on. I felt bad because I wanted everybody but Toni Collette to kill themselves. It's a movie about four strangers who meet in the attempt to kill themselves.
Honestly,
jumping from
that's the problem with that movie. It's I think the premise is kind of brilliant. Like these people meeting and forming a bond based on like, you know, wanting to die by suicide. But it's bad when every single character is like the worst human alive. And then Toni Collette's just like, she's just a mom with a hard life. Like, come on.
Yeah. And she's like blaming herself for a lot of things she can't control. Everybody else should be blaming themselves for a lot of things that they are actively doing wrong.
Pierce Brosnan's character, what a piece of shit. And it's just, by the end of the movie, it's just like, he's fine now. And it's like, no, he sucks. What are you talking about?
He literally slept with an underage girl. And it's like, who hasn't? And it's like, excuse me? What? Like,
Yeah, it's so frustrating. Goodness. Yeah, it's weird. It's like another movie that it's just like, oh, suicide is funny. Like it's that, and then About a Boy, Paul Bearer, and even like The Last Shot has the weird like Alec Baldwin's whole character is like, my dog committed suicide. It's like, what? Why is this a common theme that's coming up in these movies?
Right. Yeah. This is her live, laugh, love era. It's all
it's really weird.
Like, you know, this meaning, you know, everything. It's weird, and I don't know why she made these choices.
Yeah,
the next group of things don't get any better, because 2017, XXX Return of Xander Cage, which I think is the only thing that she like is actively like, okay, mama needs a paycheck.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I did see Miss You Already.
Yes, I like that one. I thought she's really good in that. Yeah. And it's funny too, because it's kind of like a role reversal of In Your Shoes, where she's the kind of the party girl to the reserved best friend / sister, you know?
Yeah. Those movies are really hard too, because cancer dramas in general, any sort of medical drama is going to be manipulative. And like, when we talked about, bringing it back to Cameron Diaz, when we talked about the Cameron Diaz movie with the daughter,
my daughter's keeper, my sister's keeper,
my sister's keeper. I really hated that because it felt like you could feel the strings. And I think what's great is I think there's some occasional like too much schmaltz in Miss You Already, but I think both performances by both Drew Barrymore and Toni Collette really elevate the material. I think the husbands also really elevate the material. You have a lot of strong performances, and I think Catherine Hardwicke like had such, for the woman who directed Twilight, had such a sensitive hand in the direction of it. And there's some like really beautiful, like, I kind of hate shots of nature in movies because they oftentimes feel like filler, where it's just like, here's a bunch of grass, guys, look at this grass for a bit. But there were times that movie really needed to slow down and really, and she took, it's maybe a little long, but I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Also, you skipped over Krampus in 2015.
Oh yes, Krampus. I forgot.
Fun as hell. I love that movie.
Yeah. I didn't rewatch it, but that's like, I feel like Krampus is Hereditary trial run, like dry run.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun as hell.
But I do want to mention Fun Mom Dinner, which was also from 2017.
I thought that movie was going to be god-awful based on the reviews, and I didn't like it. I didn't think it was very funny, but I didn't think it was that bad either. I thought it was...
I thought it was
whatever.
so bad.
I thought it was whatever.
It's very whatever. I'm on Derek's. I think it's very...
Yeah.
It wants to be more, but it is not.
Yeah, and it's in the era of like Bad Moms, Bad Teacher. Like it's supposed to be that sort of... But she, like, first of all, it was either written by Paul Rudd's wife or sister. I didn't delve too far into it, but I was just like, oh, that's why everybody's doing this.
Okay,
like,
that explains everything.
But,
Nepo sister?
Yeah, Nepo something. This is somehow related. I honestly, maybe Paul Rudd's married to his sister. I don't know. We haven't done an episode about him yet.
We haven't done
okay.
Coming soon, the Paul Rudd episode.
She also did... Unlocked, Madam, and Please Stand By. I only saw Madam and Please Stand By. Madam's a small French film she did with Rossi de Palma, who we talked about so much in our Almodovar episode, and Harvey Keitel. It's not a great movie by any means, but I think that was something that she like could put a character on. She's like, it's like a Cinderella story where she like makes a maid pretend to be a rich person at a dinner party because she doesn't want to have 13 place settings, and that's Rossi de Palma's character.
What? Anyway.
And she like basically plays the evil stepmother.
Rossi de Palma is very good in it. And
Rossi de Palma's great in it. Yeah.
Okay, the movie itself, it kind of like is a nothing burger, but...
Oh, meet me at the George Cinq at 9. Oh my God, I am an idiot. Oh, he's excited by your resistance. He wants you in his bed.
But I thought the Georges V was a movie theater on the Champs-Élysées, madame.
No, not in this context. It's a hotel. The Georges V Hotel.
A hotel.
Anyways, all of this is getting us to 2018's Hereditary.
Thank God, because literally these last 5 fucking years, it's just like, it was a rocky road, babe.
And it's funny because, we're going to talk about Hereditary, and so I don't want to breeze by it, but I will say after Hereditary she turns a lot towards TV, which is an interesting...
It's very interesting.
Hereditary, she's the matriarch of a family that's her mother has just passed away. She has a child that there's a tragic accident in the movie. There's more stuff going on, supernatural maybe. I don't know how much you want me to say about the movie. I famously don't like this movie, and I know that's an unpopular opinion. Which
I think that's fair. I like it. I like it a lot, but I do the last like 15 minutes really lose me, which I don't think is a very uncommon opinion. I've never been super into like demonic possession type movies anyway. So once it kind of goes in that direction, I'm just like, okay, whatever. But I do like a lot of everything else leading up to that, kind of separate from what it ultimately concludes as.
I think like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm obviously not the spooky bitch in residency here, but I feel like a lot of Ari Aster's movies, like the vibes are immaculate, blah, blah, blah. But then like once we get to like actually revealing the thing, it's always like, oh, what the fuck? Like,
It's weird because I feel like a lot of his movies are, it's one of those things where it's sort of like, I feel like there's a lot of allegorical stuff happening here, but then he'll be like, no, it's all literal. And it's like, but I feel like if you just say it's a metaphor, then it's okay to make less sense. Because, the movies don't make sense. And I think the stuff that connects with me is, reading way too much into it probably is what I like to do with his movies and with this movie.
And listen, here's the thing. I don't think anybody's bad for liking this movie. I don't want to I think when you tell people you don't like a movie, often they take it personally. Please don't take it personally. I don't like feeling bad.
It's a very bleak movie. It's a very bleak movie. Yeah.
That's so weird, Gavin. So weird.
I know, shocking. And that is Ari Aster's thing. Is he's like, I find his films, for me, very emotionally manipulative in a way that I don't like and I don't vibe with. If you vibe with it, great, and I think the movie looks good, and I think it's got some really banger performances. I think she is amazing, especially in that scene that everybody knows, especially in that scene that drag queens quote.
I don't want to say anything. I've tried saying
Okay, so try again. Release yourself.
Oh, release you mean?
Yeah, fine. Release me. Just say it. Just
fucking say it. Don't you swear at me, you little shit! Don't you ever raise your voice at me! I am your mother! Do you understand? Don't you swear at me, you little shit! Don't you ever raise your voice at me! I am your mother! Do you understand? All I do is worry and slave and defend you. And all I get back is that fucking face on your face.
It's at a level where, to me it was like shocking or surprising because it's taking her instrument to a level of which we had not seen either before or in a very long time, because it's taking that fucking precision blade and just fucking like stabbing the shit out of it. And it's, again, her levels in one little perfect little box of her talent. It's and again, I think people maybe forgot that she had that in her, or that she is a horror girl. She's not afraid to get ugly. She's not afraid.
And she hates horror movies.
You and me both, bitch.
Yeah. Well, the movie does a lot of like extreme close-ups too. Like I think it really makes a meal out of what she's able to do with her face. Like it's not an accident. Like it is. I don't think it's lost on anybody working on that movie that they can get a lot out of just her facial expressions and things. And I mean that's kind of what makes the movie for me beyond anything else at the end of the day.
It's funny. She had told her agent she didn't want to do anything serious for a bit. She wanted one of those like fun tip thing, because she had just done like Imperium, which is a movie we didn't even talk about, where she plays like an FBI agent hunting down white supremacists, and she'd done all these like really dark, serious, and she was like, I don't want. Her agent was just like, just read the script, please read the. She
does the bleakest movie in the history of the world.
Goodness. She's got it in her, I guess. But she does the TV show Wanderlust in 2018. She also does the Sundance indie hit Hearts Beat Loud. I know you're a big fan of this, Louis.
Love that movie so much.
I watched it for the first time. I had not seen it. And I was like, oh, this was like invented in a lab for Sundance. Like more than the Sundance labs. Like this was built by a scientist for Sundance.
This was a movie that I mentioned for that year, whatever fucking year that was, 2019, I suppose, was one of my like stand-up movies of the year, because it was the movie for me that year was very much about like movies that have like music built into them. And she's barely in this movie, but it's just so good. And she's and this was the movie she was looking for. This was the movie where it's just like light and frothy.
Nice. It's so comfortable.
Yeah.
It's got, for me, it's got Nick Offerman. It's got Toni Collette. It's got my husband and my wife, and they kiss at one point. 10 out of 10, a million thumbs up, 15,000 stars, perfect movie, masterpiece. Great.
Yeah. She's always beautiful. And like you said, Nick Offerman, he is so cute in this movie. When he's like in his tight little t-shirts, and I was just like, oh, yeah.
His cute little boyish haircut and everything. Yeah. It's so good. I love it so much.
He's running a record shop. He's saying hi to Jeff Tweedy, In 2019, she does Dan Gilroy's Velvet Buzzsaw, which once again is a movie where she like comes in, puts a little character on it.
I don't like that movie. I'm sorry. I don't like it at all.
Funny enough, I'm on the opposite end. I actually do really like this movie. I really, I can totally understand why, because it is like, it's satire without a lot of teeth, I'll be honest, because he's like going after the things that sort of everybody knows about. Like it's like not controversial to say, oh, the art world is full of a bunch of stuck up people.
In the universe, I doubt there is a hotter artist. Do you know, since the exhibit opening is actually trending on Twitter?
We're interested in showing him.
Send dimensions and JPEGs for the group, and we'll aim for a slot next season.
I want them exhibited ASAP.
You know we have a process, Gretchen.
My weird experience with it was that I somehow, I guess, just kind of outside of having heard about like Jake Gyllenhaal being naked in it or whatever, I never experienced any marketing from it. So all I knew about the movie was that it was like a dark satire about the art world. So I went into it expecting like, oh, people are going to get killed or something like that. I don't know. I didn't know that it was a fucking like classic like possessed painting horror movie with that was like had effects from like the 1999 The Haunting movie. Like it's so fucking silly, and like I think that I would have liked the movie better if it was more of like a schlocky B-movie horror movie, like a fun horror movie. It felt a little bit too much to me, like it was trying to be like, we're elevated horror with a statement, but also we're funny. And it's like, I kind of just would have liked it if it was just a dumbass horror movie about haunted paintings. I think it would have been more fun because there's a lot of like cleverness, and I like some of the visuals in it and everything. I like aspects, and I love Toni Collette's performance in the movie, but it just didn't work for me otherwise.
Yeah. No, but I definitely, I can understand not liking it, but I when I watched it was one of those like, oh, I'm turning my brain off and just like, which I normally hate when people say that, but I was just like, whatever, everybody's having a campy fun time.
Everybody says about like Marvel movies or whatever, and you're doing it for like Velvet Buzzsaw.
I'm the Velvet Buzzsaw guy. I was like, don't you put your hand in that silver ball, Toni Collette.
This was the era, though, where like she really gets in her Netflix bag, though, right? Because this is a Netflix movie. Unbelievable with my girl, Caitlin Dever. That miniseries fucking took me out.
I haven't watched that, so is it good? Because I worry about the true crime stuff that she's been doing lately.
I really like it. I would say that Caitlin Dever is probably the bigger role. I think it's handled with incredible care and sensitivity. I'm not even a true crime person, but I really like this.
Cool.
Yeah, I have not seen any of her TV stuff outside of United States of Terror, and it is funny that she is not somebody who's scared of TV like a lot of actors. She, unbelievable. She also did this like short-lived CBS TV show called Hostages. She also just recently did Pieces of Her for Netflix and The Staircase for HBO Max. So like, yeah, she's like, I guess if the part speaks to her, she's willing to do the TV thing. On the film front, though, the last couple things she did in 2020, she did Charlie Kaufman's I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which I think was another one of those like, let me put a little character on it.
Yeah,
she did Knives Out, which Rian Johnson movie. I don't know anybody who hasn't seen Knives Out.
I know two people who would love that movie, and I hope they're listening to this podcast. No, 3 people who haven't seen that movie. I hope they're listening right now. You all need to watch it because you would love it, and you would love Glass Onion.
Yeah. Okay, don't forget Dream Horse, Gavin. God,
Dream Horse. Don't want to leave out Dream Horse. Goodness,
she's got to make movies for old people too. Okay.
Yes.
Never knew how much I missed messing about with horses.
It's more than a bit of fun and messing about, Brian.
Yeah. What do you mean?
I don't know. I mean, I need something to look forward to when I get up in the morning. To remind me that things can change.
She also did Guillermo del Toro's Nightmare Alley, which is another movie that's just like stacked with lady performances that are just like, yeah. You also get Blanchett in that, and
it's interesting that she's like on the poster and kind of like the third female lead of it, but she's not really in the movie that much. Like, she's an important part of it. She's not in it that much.
Like
honestly.
20 minutes in, she's like maybe only has 4 more minutes left in the rest of the movie. It's like a 2.5 hour movie. So if you're watching for Toni Collette,
not the movie.
Yeah,
you got it.
Yeah.
That kind of like brings us to now, right? I mean,
yeah, it absolutely does. So I do want to mention real quick, she is like humanitarian out the wazoo. She has said it's very important to her to give back, which is why I think one of the tracks is like doing things about underserved people and whatnot. But she's done stuff for Doctors Without Borders, Amnesty International, Feeding America, breast cancer awareness. That was her, Drew Barrymore, and Catherine Hardwicke all did that together after doing Miss You Already. Supported antivirals for HIV patients in Africa. She did at one point release a statement in like a pro PETA statement, and then like immediately had to retract that statement and was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, they're not the group I thought they were."
Hold on.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad that she learned and grew from that situation.
Me too.
It was 2005. Wow. We were all concerned.
Yeah.
But that makes me so happy. She also has a music career, as I previously mentioned, and not just like oh, I like to sing. Like she had a band. They were called Toni Collette and the Finish. They recorded one album in Sydney, Australia. And yeah, that album came out.
It was like 2007, I think. Or
yeah,
something.
2006, 2007. She's not done another album since. She said she would love to. She would love to do a reunion of the band. She just hasn't had the time. Sure. But you can, like, there's fucking music videos. It's not like this is like a band, like just as a fun little gag. Like there is, like, this is like Lindsay Lohan Rumors era. But I tried to listen to the album and it's all ballads, and I was like, just ballads, baby. We're just gonna do ballads.
If you Google her husband, Dave Gallifassi, it says drummer / Toni Collette's husband.
and a former now, because they're splitting up.
No way, really?
Yeah.
They've been together for a long time, hadn't they?
Yeah, it was just announced December 7th of 2022.
Oh, no.
She like put out a thing on Instagram just being like, we've decided to split up. Like it's a mutual decision. Like, also don't ask me about it. Essentially, that's the Cliff Notes
said,
version.
listen, I'm 50 and I'm single.
She has said in her 20s, she did not love the media hubbub, the circus of it all. She suffered from both bulimia and panic attacks. She said the panic attacks mostly lasted for 8 months consistently.
Oh my God.
And I'm just trying to think how she like functioned during that, but she did. She dated Jonathan Rhys-Meyers from Velvet Goldmine for about a year.
Hot.
She called the relationship, quote, hedonistic, drunken, and probably dangerous.
Okay, even hotter.
When she's been asked about her faith, she's remarked, I'm spiritual, I'm not a Buddhist, but I am drawn to it because it seems to be the most beneficial of organized religions and the most compassionate. It's an ongoing journey. She did meet Dave Gallifassi in 2002 at an album launch party for his then band, Gelbson?
Sure.
Gail Bison.
Gail Bison. Oh, Gail Bison. Of course. Me and words, whatever. They got married in 2003 on January 11th in a traditional Buddhist ceremony. They have a daughter together, Sage Florence, who was born in 2008, and a son, Arlo Robert, who was born in 2011. And yeah, and that really wraps up, you know, her thing. She's been several nominated for both the Golden Globes, and she's got that one Oscar nomination.
She has some Emmys.
She should get.
She
has potential to get an EGOT, and it's ridiculous that she hasn't been nominated for more things.
Yeah, well, because that's the other thing is she was nominated for a Tony Award for lead role in The Wild Party, and you know had that rumor of Mandy Patinkin being an asshole to her, like. But yeah, she's got an Emmy at least. We got her that
at least, and she deserves more.
Yeah,
Record a book. Record a book. Get a Grammy.
Yeah. I mean, say what you will about Hereditary, but it is bananas that she didn't get nominated for that.
Once again, that's the thing. I think people, when you tell them you don't like a movie, they think like, oh, you don't like all parts of it. I don't understand how she wasn't nominated.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It really is. I think it has to be because it's a horror movie. Like, that's the only reason. It doesn't make any sense.
I think that wraps up Toni Collette's career. So why don't we get the hard thing out of the way first and talk about our 1-star reviews, just to see what we didn't particularly like.
I can tell you right off the bat, because we didn't even talk about it. One of the most recent movies she did, The Estate, that movie sucks. Hate that movie.
Wow.
I was so mad because I saw that it didn't get great reviews, so I had tempered expectations for it. But I was still like Kathleen Turner, Anna Faris, Toni Collette, David Duchovny, like randomly in that movie, and Rosemary DeWitt. She's worked with her on Tara. Like, there's a lot of good people there. I'm sure you can mine something good out of it. Every single person is like wasted in that movie. It's unpleasant. It's weird. It's so. I don't understand how you have that cast and like nothing about it is funny whatsoever. And Toni Collette, a nothing character.
Yep.
I mean, her performance is as good as it can be, I guess, because she's good at her job, but she has nothing to do in that movie. It's I hate it. It's so bad.
I watched so many movies from this and I skipped that. I was like,
I torrented that movie. But I'm glad that I didn't pay for it. But also the fact that I spent the time searching for the torrent to download it, mad about that. That movie sucks so much.
She hasn't changed at all.
Oh, I know. She looks amazing.
That's not what I meant. No, I'm talking about how she's a conniving, trying to take our money.
I think you're overreacting. I mean, I know Beatrice can be clever and scheming and probably a little evil, but
She's just one person, right?
Hey, cousins. How you doing?
No!
I agree. I did watch The Estate because I remember when the trailer came out, I was like, oh my God, Anna Faris back in a comedy, Kathleen Turner, like you said. It really is wild. I was like, how do you have this cast and not make a single fucking joke?
It's so bad.
It's not funny. Everything, they go for like, I guess the thing they're going for is like gross out humor. Literally,
but it's not even gross enough to be, it's just uncomfortable most of the time.
Yeah, like there's like a gag where they like take an old man's dick out of his pants. And I was like, none of this is hitting. None of it. You mentioned Rosemary DeWitt, who she's worked with before. She also has worked with David Duchovny before in Connie and Carla. It all comes back, baby.
Hell yeah.
I
Much
think
better movie than The Estate.
Yeah, I agree, and it's very disheartening because there is no reason why that movie should be that bad. It's just like a really boring ass fucking story with boring performances and bad writing, and yeah.
Yep.
R.I.P. The Estate. Gavin, what do you got?
So I picked a movie. I briefly mentioned it. It's called Mental. It unfortunately was her reteaming with PJ Hogan. And once again, I don't know if it ever came out in the US. I could not find a US release date for this movie, but it's from 2012. Essentially, it's a family of all girls, and the mother is I'll just say it. This movie is bad about mental health. Like this movie, like the mother is like maybe OCD, maybe, but like not defined. One of the daughters actually does have schizophrenia. They do at least get to that. But it's this like comedy loosely based on PJ Hogan's life, where his dad had his mother committed and then one day brought home a hitchhiker to be their nanny. And this movie, Toni Collette is that nanny. And it's like bonkers Mary Poppins. And she's basically like, no one needs help for their mental health. Everybody else is crazy. And you just need to like focus on the things that are fun in life. And that way you'll be fine. And it's just broadly, I don't even know how to describe it. It's awful. It's truly awful. I was miserable watching this movie, and it was like trying to play things for laugh. There's a scene where there's a racist neighbor next door who the interior of her house is all white, and Toni Collette brings all the girls over, and they all have their periods on her white couches.
We can't leave you. This is an emergency.
Calling the police.
Nah, not a police emergency. A feminine emergency. You got any pads?
What?
You know, pads. Writing pads? Sanitary pads. Preferably maxi. All of us, actually, yeah. You know how women living in close proximity line up menstrually, something to do with the moon? Well, we've all lined up, haven't we, girls? Right here in your lounge room.
I'm having an emergency on your white couch.
Me too.
Oh, you're a woman now, Jane.
Get out.
Oh God.
Yeah, and I was just like,
Humor.
what am I supposed
to
get from this? Like, yeah, it's just it's all supreme miscalculation, and I don't understand.
Is this like a Nickelodeon show from like 1993? Like I don't.
Except it's all very adult. It's all very like. The F word is said a lot. Like the wife readily admits at one point that the reason she is with her husband is because he raped her, and that's how she got pregnant with her first daughter.
Oh my God.
And like Toni Collette threatens him at the end with a knife, and it's like, you're never to abuse your family. But that's his whole comeuppance. And the thing is how she got involved with this movie is when they were on the set of Muriel's wedding, PJ Hogan would tell her about this woman that was his nanny, that was this hitchhiker, and she's like, you have to make that movie someday, and I have to play that role. And I cannot for my life believe that she thought this was going to be the script.
Yeah. It's funny when you mentioned your theory of her choosing roles. I think that first track is what gets her in the most trouble, and this sounds like it is in that lane, because again, these are movies that have good intentions,
yeah,
but filtered through the lens of filmmaking in Hollywood. Like, it just doesn't fucking work, you know. And
Yeah.
Connie and Carlo is a good example of this, because I'm sure an executive somewhere said, we need to explain to an audience what this is and how they are different, and like it has to be very obvious. And so all these things that take a lot of sensitivity go right out the fucking window. And so the movie is about, like, you know, people with mental health disorders.
Yeah.
Let's call it mental. And like they're great. It's like my 1-star review is also similarly, but like not quite in the same track. It is The Night Listener. I think that, first of all, this movie really thought it was doing something by saying it's inspired by true events, when literally...
Oh my God. I was so mad when I read about the history of like what it's like based on a book that's kind of lightly inspired by a thing that maybe happened. Like, come on.
It's like, why even attach that? Just don't worry about it, babes. The Night Listener is a 2006 film starring Robin Williams, where he is like a radio journalist kind of guy who, like, I don't know, kind of like Ira Glass, I would say, if you wanted to like think of what he is doing.
Yeah,
he tells stories. He's a magpie looking for shiny things to talk about on the radio. Toni Collette plays a blind woman who may or may not, but she did, make up a young boy who was sexually abused and now has AIDS and is dying and wrote a book. And this little boy is now, you know, sick, and Toni Collette is allegedly taking care of him, except the boy is fake. And Robin Williams is like investigating, like, you know, is this boy real? And this is what I meant. Like, I think she had no idea what to do here, because the choices she's making are so wild and so big. Yeah. And she is just like literally wandering around with her like contact lenses in to make her look like she's blind. And this movie also is very manipulative in a way that I don't like, where it's like any normal human would be like, this is fucking crazy, I'm out of here. Yeah. You know, but then they goes out of its way to be like, but she's blind and there's a boy with AIDS. Don't you care?
I agree.
And on top of,
kind, even though her performance is not great, she's also kind of the best part of that movie, because it's so gonzo that it's fun to watch her, the way that she screams in the middle of the road, and stuff like.
and that's the tension, because Robin Williams is trying to like win an Oscar.
Yes,
and, like,
that's. I was just gonna say, it's so upsetting that Robin Williams is on his most boring mode because he wants to downplay everything.
Why are you pissed at me? You're the one that broke into our house.
I went to the fucking hospital. He wasn't there.
Well, you went to the wrong hospital.
I went to every goddamn hospital in Madison.
He was in Milwaukee.
Oh, of course. If I ask you which hospital, you probably say
just
move.
Stop it.
Or maybe
He's
suddenly.
dead. He died last night. Bilateral pneumonia. His lungs were saturated and they couldn't resuscitate.
Jesus, you're good.
What?
You got a fucking answer for everything.
I think the other big problem with the movie, besides the fact that the performances are calibrated into like the opposite ends of the dial, is that the movie wants so bad to be scary and to be a thriller. And like,
why?
But the story's
Nothing
not
about
that.
It's scary.
Like,
what are you doing?
The story's like an unnerving anecdote that you hear at a party.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, that's it.
It's an interesting premise that maybe you could do something with potentially, but like it's
like,
not a thriller at all.
I could imagine somebody telling me that and me being like, and they never found out if the kid was real or not. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right, because like it does want you to be like, is she gonna fucking kill him? Is she gonna like? Is she,
Right.
But also, this movie again like is so insensitive to like people who have mental illness, and it's like, oh, she is the spooky blind lady who like makes up like stories about having kids. Who did I see that wrote this fucking movie?
It was Amistad Mupon.
Mupon.
Yeah.
What the fuck? I was like, who? Bobby Cannavale playing Gay, iconic. He is an ally. He can play Gay whenever he wants.
But it's just funny because like this is the man that gave us Tales from the City, and like literally has only written 2 other non-Tales from the City books, and this was one of them.
Fucking wild. And it's very like, you know, Robin Williams and Bobby Cannavale are like, lovers, but like they're breaking up because Bobby Cannavale also got diagnosed with HIV and or AIDS. They don't tell us, but like now he's better and wants to live life. And Robin Williams is mad about that. It's so bizarre. I bet the book probably has a lot more depth and nuance, but this movie instead says, listen for the truth. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I hated that movie. There was only a couple other movies that I truly didn't. I mean, Jesus Henry Christ was the worst. It was literally like Ryan Murphy's version of Running with Scissors, but directed by Wes Anderson. And it was just like, oh God, I hate this. And Fun Mom Dinner. I know you both kind of went to bat for it. Great talent.
No, I wouldn't say we went to bat for it. I think we said it's not a garbage fire.
Yeah.
That's all.
There's some great talent between, like Molly Shannon and Bridget Everett, but it just, I was like, where are the jokes?
It's not a funny movie, it's a failure as a comedy. I will 100% give you that.
It's definitely that movie like that you would have found at Blockbuster that oh, that looks fun, like that they're selling for like 99 cents in the bin. That's the vibe it gives. I wanted to mention, we didn't talk about 2014's Glassland, another movie where I think she's making crazy fucking choices and that are not perhaps the most sensitive. She's playing an alcoholic mother character, again on that first track of like wanting to be noble, and it's just like sometimes I'm glad that she found that like level of being loud and making big choices for Hereditary that worked, because there are times, I will say, that it does not work, and Glassland is that time.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. Let's stop being negative. Miss Collette doesn't deserve this. Let's get into our 5-star reviews.
I wanted to be like cool and unique with it, but I rewatched The Sixth Sense, and it's still my favorite movie she's ever done. I think that movie is a masterpiece. I think it's incredibly good. I think that is still one of her best performances. I think many other actors, that could be the best performance they ever give, and the fact that she gives other performances that rival it or are arguably better, I think is just a testament to how good she is. I just think everything about it, and I think it's a perfect encapsulation of what she can do in that. That's not the biggest role in the world, but she elevates it and makes it incredibly memorable. Such a distinct but also like really unique character. Like it's one that feels like a very real person, but also feels like people that I have met before in my life. But also, it just does such amazing things with not a ton of material really for her. And I think that movie would not work if she didn't kill that role.
Don't get mad.
So who moved it this time? Maybe someone came in our house, took the bumblebee pendant out of my closet and placed it nicely in your drawer.
Maybe.
God, I am so tired, Cole. I'm tired in my body. I'm tired in my mind. I'm tired in my heart. I need some help. I don't know if you noticed, but our little family isn't doing so good. I mean, I've been praying, but I must not be praying right. Looks like we're just gonna have to answer each other's prayers. If we can't talk to each other, we're not gonna make it.
Since she does, it's good, and every time I watch it, I like it even more.
Excellent choice. We stand being basic here on this podcast.
Yes.
So how about that?
I think a true testament to that movie, even outside of her performance, is, people talk about spoiler culture all the time.
Yeah.
They can't. I have a friend who literally, you can't even tell him if you liked a movie or not. He considers it a spoiler.
Okay.
It's a little much, yeah.
It drives me nuts. I think what's great about The Sixth Sense is, and the unfortunate takeaway that everybody has taken from M. Night Shyamalan's career post that, is that there is a twist in that movie, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't destroy the fact that it's a good movie. It is a beautiful film. It's so well acted. It's really well directed.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't matter. The twist doesn't matter. It's a good twist.
Yeah, I think knowing the twist makes it better because you see how well constructed that whole movie is.
My mom loves mysteries, and the first time I remember renting it on VHS, and I knew the twist because you couldn't escape it when it came out, but she's not tuned into pop culture at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember putting it in and being like, this is gonna blow her away. Literally 10 minutes in, she's like, oh, he's dead. And I was like, Mom!
Oh my God. But it's fine because it's so emotionally affecting regardless of it. It is such a bummer that like M. Night Shyamalan is such a weird person that like just the whole conversation around him, good or bad, like it is kind of a bummer that I feel like it kind of takes away from how good this movie is, regardless of whatever comes after it. Like as just a very sincere, emotional story that also has some like really good scares and thrills in it at the same time.
Very good pick.
All right. Is it my turn? Should I go?
It is your turn, Gavin.
So I think there's so many good things that you could pick. The Sixth Sense was up there for me. I think Hereditary would be an absolutely banger of a 5-star review, even if it is a film I don't particularly like. Mm-hmm. I think, and I'm calibrating this, I think after 5 years, I sort of know our audience pretty well too. And I think the movie that most affected me in terms of this was shockingly Miss You Already.
Interesting.
This was not, I did not expect to pick this going in.
I mean, that's a good pick though. That movie's better than it should have been, honestly, in a lot of ways.
So what's really funny is Drew Barrymore was not initially cast in this movie. Rachel Weisz was.
Oh, weird.
Rachel Weisz is a previous subject. I think she would have been amazing. I think that would have. But I think there's something so warm. There's like an internal light in Drew Barrymore that allowed them to, like, this feels like a real friendship. So this movie is kind of, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's basically a remake of Beaches. But
oh my God, it totally is. Oh no.
But it's a film in which Toni Collette is kind of the rocker, edgier girl. Drew Barrymore is a girl whose mom moves to England as a kid, and everybody doesn't like her because she has an American accent. And Toni Collette takes her under her wing. She's from a privileged background. Her mom's an actress, and she like is the wild girl. She marries a musician, and she has kids immediately. Drew Barrymore's like desperately trying to have kids. She's having trouble. She's going for IVF, and in the process of this, Toni Collette's character finds out she has breast cancer. And for most of the movie, she goes through treatment of having breast cancer. All the while, Drew Barrymore is going through her own drama of, will the IVF work? Oh, when it does work, should she tell Toni Collette because she's having such a hard time? It's putting strain on her relationship with her husband, played by Paddy Considine. And I just really love the interpersonal stuff in this movie. Once again, I am so aware of how a medical drama can be manipulative. But I think if you can make it through this movie, if you've never experienced death in a personal way, like this is a good primer for that. If you have experienced death in a personal way, this will hit you. It's done so well. And like I said before, it, really elevated performance. I think the script is fine. If I have to say a negative thing, there's a voiceover at the end that I wish wasn't there. And honestly, I don't think that scene needed voiceover at all. If you could have just let it breathe, don't give the characters lines, just let like what's happening happen and cut out that voiceover. How beautiful would that moment have been? I won't say what it is, but
I agree.
But yeah, it's just a lovely, lovely movie, an amazing performance. And Toni Collette even said, for not being a method actor and not taking it home with her, like she says a lot of people does, and she sort of thinks is a little bonkers. She said that one was hard for her because that one stayed with her for like a year, and she had to like remind herself, like, you need to let this go. And I think it's very hard, but what a lovely, lovely film. And she looks great in her little wig. So
she shaves her head like on screen in that movie too. Yeah. I know that's like many actors have done that, but it's anytime it happens, it's still like, that's a good commitment. I appreciate that.
And she goes through several different, there's a look that she has at the end of the movie that I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I can't help but notice that since you've been pregnant, you've been rather overdosing on the Birkenstocks.
Well, they're comfortable and completely on trend.
No, Jess, they're not. They're revolting. So I have these for you.
Oh my God.
Unworn. No touch too showy for this place.
Wow, you're really going, aren't you?
Why else would I be giving you my best pair of shoes?
I saw this movie at a film festival in Northern California, and I saw it again for this, and it is very weepy. But I to your point, Gavin, I remember this time around watching it being like, she has such a hard job in this film because she's being funny, she's scared, she's angry,
she does some unlikable stuff in it.
Oh,
and
God, yeah.
Yeah.
She fucks the guy from All American Rejects.
I know. Horrible.
That's who that was.
Yes.
I did not realize that was him. I was like, I know I recognize him, and then I never looked up who it was. Oh, God, that makes it even worse.
Yeah. I know. People that watch the show on Patreon, by the way, Derek's reaction to that, priceless.
Yeah.
You need to subscribe just for that alone.
But that's a very good pick. I think the ending of that, I remember just like that ending where she says, I love you, and
There's a choice. I know we're not talking about Drew Barrymore. Obviously, Toni Collette's character dies in this film. That's not a spoiler. That's life. There's a choice that Drew Barrymore makes after she realizes Toni Collette has passed, where Toni Collette's husband walks in the room, and Drew Barrymore looks up and she smiles at him. And I lost it. I'm losing it now. That is so personal because that was her friend. Sorry.
Yeah, no, what I love about this movie though is the script could have easily been like, and the husbands were assholes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like it
seems like it might go that way at certain points, and I love that it never does.
Right. It's a very sensitive and real, and like they're not playing for like cheap drama. It's the drama literally is these women adore each other, and the absolute horror of, I mean, this woman does not just go through like one round of treatment. She goes and I think, I have friends who have had cancer, who have, are survivors of it and hate even that idea of like surviving or fighting cancer. Like if someone dies of cancer, it's not because they didn't fight hard enough, like fuck off.
Right.
And this movie, like it's very much that, like, this woman fucking like, did everything she could, and in the end, sometimes it just is what it is, and cancer fucking like sucks. And but to be clear, like the movie is weepy, but it's not a downer. I think it's it's a very beautiful, like, just like little morsel of like love.
It's as lighthearted as it can be for a movie tackling that material.
Right, because also like these women like know each other, they know what makes each other laugh, like, and to the very end, she's like, "What are you asking?" And she's like, "Vodka." She's asking for vodka on her deathbed. Very good pick, Gavin. There are some like absolute bangers that like unfortunately we're just not gonna like pick because I only have one pick left. And as I'm going through this, I'm going back and forth, but I do think I have to give it to 97's Clock Watchers.
Yes, it was between that movie and Sixth Sense for me.
She's so good in it.
I hadn't seen Clock Watchers before doing this. I fell in love with that movie so hard. It's such a great movie.
Yeah, it was between this and Muriel's Wedding for me, and I love Muriel's Wedding. I have nothing bad to say about it, but I think this perhaps is the more overlooked, better encapsulation of like her true superpowers. Mm-hmm. This movie has like this Mike White vibe to it.
Very that.
It reminded me so much, and I have seen this movie I think 3 times now, but it reminds me so much of like Enlightened. There's a lot of narration. There's a lot of, kind of big think stuff happening here, but it's also just like the mundanity of life and how fucking capitalism and work just grinds us to a fucking pulp, makes friends become enemies, reveals all these like awful things about each other. And also, I mean, stacked cast, we talked about it in our Parker Posey episode. But Toni is the central figure here, and she's the new girl at this nameless office. It's like a temp job. They, tell her to do specific things, get mad at her when she does. It's a thankless, awful fucking, and what's wild is like we all have this job, no matter what your job is. We all have this job. It's the job where the fucking person in charge makes you do stupid things that don't matter anyway. You're overlooked all the time. It's just like, it speaks to the working man. And it's wild though, because like these are 4 beautiful women. Lisa Kudrow, Alana Ubach.
Enough cannot be said about Alana Ubach, just in general.
In general.
Love Alana Ubach.
It was directed by Jill Sprecher. Is that how we say that, Gavin? Do we know?
You're asking me to pronounce shit for you?
Well, I was unsure if maybe you're familiar. You are an indie guy here, but it was written by Jill and Karen Sprecher. I'm assuming they're sisters. But it's
for all we know, they could be related to Paul Rudd.
They could be related to Paul Rudd. We don't know. It's just I don't know. The ending of this movie, it really turns on the head. Like, I don't know. Especially now, I think in not post-COVID, but like post-pandemic world we're living in.
Yeah.
The idea of work is just a fucking nightmare.
Yes.
And it's not just about like work, it's life. We're all watching the clock, right? We're all trying to like make the best out of life. She has these just silent moments where she realizes, I'm so fucking mad at life. I'm so fucking mad at this job. And she like decides, I'm gonna fucking take my life back.
I wish I could tell you I never doubted a friend. I wish I could say that place hadn't gotten the better of us. But that's not the way it happened. Sometimes it hits you how quickly the present fades into the past, and you question everything around you. You wonder if anything you'd ever do would matter, or if you could just disappear without a trace.
When she decides to like finally get herself out of that fucking place, and there's carved on her desk, it says, I was never here. And it's clear like that someone from before was like, and that's just like the vibe, like, oh fuck, we're all just on this planet, like, and it's meaningless. We were never here in any way. Like no one's gonna remember shit. And she just fucking scratches it out. And I'm like, fuck yeah, girl. Yeah. And then she breaks the fourth wall and just looks up at us. And it's like, she's staring into like every, I don't want to say just American, but specifically Americans, because we fucking work too much and our culture of work is fucking crazy. And it's like, hey, assholes, like fucking go make art, enjoy yourselves, like live life. And it's and the movie is so unpreachy and yet just says so much, and that's just the best. And yeah, I think, Muriel's Wedding is incredible, but I think this movie just like is way more intelligent, has a lot to say, and she is just like the perfect vehicle of like strong, silent, fiery, like you see that arc of her kind of like breaking out of this beat down faceless worker, and it's just so satisfying.
It's so good. I love that movie so much. I was watching it, I was like, I have been partially in charge of training temps in an office environment, and we had to do almost like when they're sort of like, they don't tell us stuff because they know we're gonna they only give us a certain amount of information because they know we're gonna leave anyway. And it's like that's what we've been told of exactly how to train them, is to like only train them on certain things because they're gonna leave anyway. Like
because you don't want them to take that information with them. It's so stupid.
It's so insidious. And like I not that they have to be in competition, but I know like if you're thinking like semi-surrealist, like office culture movies, like Office Space has always been like the top tier one. I kind of feel like this movie Clock Watchers is better than Office Space. I think
but you know what this movie doesn't have? Men.
That's true. It is about women.
That's it.
I think that element really elevates it a lot, honestly, because it's such a particular perspective.
I love this because I don't know if we've had an episode in a while where like it's been so unpredictable. This is not, I think people would come into this episode expecting us to be like Hereditary, Muriel's Wedding, like these are the hits, these are the, and like we've said good things about all those movies, but like, it's our show. And like, so
but she's done a lot of stuff, and that's very varied, and a lot of it's very good.
I would also argue like her Gwyneth Paltrow impersonation on Knives Out is very good.
So good. So fucking good.
Yeah, which is funny knowing that she worked with Gwyneth Paltrow on Emma too. Like it's so funny. I love it.
All right. Before we get into our fast forward, why don't we do our mixed reviews review?
My 1-star review was The Estate from 2022.
My 1-star review was Mental from 2012.
My 1-star review was The Night Listener, 2006.
My 5-star review was The Sixth Sense from 1999.
My 5-star review was Miss You Already from 2015.
My 5-star review was Clock Watchers from 1997.
Excellent. Let's get into our fast forward.
Toni Collette has things upcoming. She is booked and blessed.
Of course she is.
Of course she is.
She's never not working.
I see something called Mafia Mama. It looks like there's a trailer already out for it. I have not seen this trailer before, but
I haven't either.
It looks directed by Catherine Hardwicke, our good sis from Miss You Already.
That's really funny.
Okay.
I had not even heard of this movie.
Yeah, me either.
The only other thing that I knew that she was doing was, of course, Mickey 17, the Bong Joon-ho film.
Excited about that. I don't even know what it's going to be. I'm so excited about it.
It's her and Batman himself, Robert Pattinson. And also she's doing another TV show called The Power, which is about sounds like The Craft, essentially. It's a group of teenage girls mysteriously develop a special power that allows them to electrocute people at will.
Okay.
Hot.
Yeah.
Wait, that's based on a book that I read, actually.
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
really?
Yeah.
So
it's
probably not The Craft. I'm probably extrapolating.
No, not at all. It's actually pretty. It's actually pretty good. I like that book. It's more. I mean, in the book, I don't know if the show is taking a different direction. In the book, it's like literally every woman is granted this power, so it's very much about like gender dynamics and stuff.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
John Leguizamo's in that, so that's fun.
Oh, hey. Yeah.
I did you guys watch The Staircase?
No,
I didn't. Like I said, I've never seen her on any other TV show outside of United States of Terror.
I watched like a couple episodes by like half of it. I was like, enough, I can't do this. Again, like it's kind of like a showy show. There's a lot going on. I mean, my God, I don't know how they fucking filmed her falling down that fucking staircase and crumpling her body. And like, I don't know how they did that, what digital for technology that was used. But Toni lives for the drama. That's what I'm going to say. Okay. She lives.
Yeah.
And whether it's like giving it as like, this high dramatic, like showy moment, or if it's like scary, or if it's, just being the sassiest girl on the block, like it's always just like fun seeing which way she's going to go next. Gavin, like you said, like it's just like so unpredictable.
Yes.
Literally just looking at these 3 things that she's got coming up next, it's like, it doesn't look like she's choosing a lane anytime soon. You know, like it's just more random, weird shit, and we have to stand.
Yeah.
I know I say this basically every episode, but because of her proven track record of Broadway, I need her. I need her back on stage. I will go see her in anything. If she wanted to play Annie, I would go watch her in Annie.
Honestly, I would be fascinated at how that would happen.
You know what? Weirdly, I want to see her. Like, a part of me wants to like see her do like a gender fuck thing.
Yeah.
I wonder like how she like. I'm thinking like Albert Nobbs Gun Close vibes. Like, I wonder how she would fuck with something in that realm. Maybe I'm like projecting this gender fuck thing. I just like want her to be like sexy seductress vibes.
I mean, she plays around a little bit of it with Velvet Goldmine. There's a lot of like suits. There's a lot of, but yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't know. It's so funny that you went for like Albert Nobbs though, because when you said it, I was like, oh, like Victoria Hedwig, and you were like Albert Nobbs.
Listen, I was just finding a modern parallel. No, but yeah, I just think like she has, she likes to be funny. And we've seen it a lot, and I think she's great at it. We've seen her being scary. I just wonder if there is, because I think she does have like, she has that great expressive face, of course. And like, I wonder, like, I can just imagine her doing the thing where she's like, just like seductively eating like something, like, and titillating the girls with it. Yeah, I don't know why I'm just like suddenly horny for fucking Toni Collette, but here we are.
I mean, who isn't all the time?
Yeah, I was gonna say, truthfully, that's the lane we're all in.
Yeah,
at all moments. Which is so funny that she's constantly. Freud would have a field day. She's constantly playing moms, and we're like,
she is.
You're like, yeah,
whoops,
MILF Toni Collette.
We have now done, I believe, 3 Australian actresses. We did Nicole Kidman, we did Kate, and now we've done Toni, and they all are just like unclockable and like unboxable, like are just doing whatever the fuck they want, however they want, because they are just that good. And it's why I can imagine a world where they are competing for the same roles, but I think they all do such different things.
Yeah. They've all appeared in movies together like multiple times. So
I just think like Toni is that extra spice in that Australian secret sauce. I don't know what, like she has just, I don't know. I don't know what it is. But I want more. I want more, and I want her to fucking just keep on delivering and being the mother that she is to us all.
and she's so young. She's just gonna keep it up.
Yes.
So I think that perfectly encapsulates Toni Collette's career, and it's just gonna keep going. She's a freight train. She's unstoppable. But Derek, we're gonna give you a moment to talk about yourself. You're a fucking podcast mogul.
Boy.
You are involved with so many podcasts. Here's your chance. Take as much time as you want and tell us everything you do and where people can find you.
Sure. Yeah, main podcasts I do. It's funny because we're recording this. You're saying all that, and we're recording it on like the month that I've actually not been recording any podcasts, which is weird for me. My weekly podcast is Walloping Web Snappers, which is a Spider-Man podcast where we're doing deep dives into every Spider-Man cartoon specifically ever made. We took our first vacation for the first time in three years. We've been releasing at least one episode a week for 3 straight years, and then we're like, we're gonna not do that there's still episodes dropping in January, just not as many. But Walloping Web Snappers, you can find that anywhere you get your podcasts. My other podcast, Gimmicks, is one that I host. That's a television podcast that looks at the high concept, experimental, structure breaking, gimmicky episodes of television, where there's a different show and a different guest I have on for every episode that I have. Gavin's been on one for the Batman animated series episode. So weird episodes that are very structure breaking is what I do on that show. You can also find that, of course, anywhere you get your podcasts. And the other one that I'll plug is the one movie podcast that I have is Falling with Style, which is an ongoing Pixar movie marathon where we watched every Pixar movie in existence chronologically. We did actually just finish that because we did get up to Lightyear, so now you're done with it until another Pixar movie comes out. And all of those, they all kind of have their own feeds and everything. You can find those anywhere you get your podcast, or you can follow me on Twitter at Derek B. Gayle. My link tree has links to all of those podcasts as well.
And so, Derek, how did you find The Good Dinosaur?
If we did our rankings on our last special episode after we did Lightyear, and that was the bottom of my list. That's below the Cars movies.
So
I think that is the worst Pixar movie ever made. It's
a good dinosaur. Okay,
no, bad dinosaur. Very bad.
Baby, when do you sleep? That's what I want to know.
This month, the month that I'm not recording podcasts except for this one. So
putting yourself inside your cryo tube and just
exactly
wake me up in February. Thank you so much. Seriously, I'm so happy you pitched Toni. I mean, she has been a subject we've talked about before that we wanted to do, and we just could never find a good time to do it. And I'm so happy that when I was like, we got to have you on, you were like, Toni Collette. I was like, sold.
Great. I mean, it's great because this is so out of the purview of the normal podcasts that I do that are like TV or animated centric. So this was such a fun, different thing that I never really get to do. So
Pixar's Hereditary.
Yeah, Pixar's Hereditary. She will pop up at a Pixar movie at some point, I'm sure.
I believe that.
Absolutely will. Yeah.
And I'm glad that we were able to introduce you to Clock Watchers and other movies that that's the point of the show, girls. Yes. We're just finding those hidden gems. So thank you for coming on, and thank you to everyone for listening. We appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. And if you want to contact us, you can always find us on Twitter at The Mixed Reviews.
We're on Facebook. Just type in The Mixed Reviews.
If you want to email us, you can email us at reviewsmixed@gmail.com.
We're also on Instagram at _mixed_reviews.
And if you want to listen to our back catalog, like you've just listened to this episode, you can find the entirety of our library on any podcast app. We're on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, Audible, Amazon, anyone that you want to listen to. But if you do happen to listen to us on Apple Podcasts, stop by, leave us a 5-star rating. Yes, I said 5 stars. And write us a little review. We'll read it on the show.
Yeah, that's 127 episodes, baby, that you get to go luxuriate in. We will see you in 2 weeks with another subject. Until then, be well. Love you, gals. Bye.
Bye.
I am your mother.